Got HeWhoWalksFar, HeWhoWalksFar, Good Nation. Welcome. So what I said was to all the chiefs, to all the chief nesters, and all the precious little ones. My name is HeWhoWalksFar. Come from Good Nation. I said thank you and welcome. So what I did was I sang a new beginning song. It's the chief Cherokee morning song. I'm Gitsan from northern British Columbia, province of British Columbia, and the country known as Canada. And Canada initially was Canada. And when the Europeans came here, when they got some communication going with the First Nations, they wanted to know what that village was called, or what they wanted to know what the land was called. And they were pointing at the village, and people told them Canada. And really, Canada means village. House. So the Canada became the big village. So, spiritually speaking, this drum was made by one of my cousins, and she was a very learned individual. Went to university. She was a model, high-class model. She was very traditional. She was a singer. She was an artist, really well renowned, a wonderful speaker. Just a very beautiful person, not only physically but in her heart and her mind. And she made this, and then after she passed, one of her daughters gifted this to me. So her spirit is here with us now, and she's listening to the words that I'm saying to you. This skin belonged to a four-legged, and it walked and ate and pooped on Mother Earth and gave birth, hopefully. And I'm hoping that's a female energy. I'm not sure. And then on here we have the rooted one. That's our relative that stands out here. The standing ones on the trees. And so the spirit of the standing one is also here. And the spirit of the people that I've let use this and share it, put their energy into it, so their spirit's here as well, and I do share that out. And here, this was made for me, gifted to me by a brother from the Carrier Nation, which is a neighboring nation to the Gitsan Nation for me. And this here is actual wolf hide and hair that's on it. And he carved the wolf on here. I'm Lac Kibu, which means wolf clan. I belong to the house of Wipat. And I come from the village of Gidden-Max in Gitsan Nation. And so when this was gifted to me, I told him that it would become part of my spiritual bundle, and it would do healing work, and it has. And so when I'm rattling it, I'm actually trying to help heal every one of you, protect each one of you, and I'm also calling the spirits. And when I was singing that Cherokee morning song, I sang it 4 times, which is from the east, from the south, from the west to the north. And I invited all the spirits from those directions to bring their gifts and healings and protections, understandings, and awareness with them to work with each one of us here that are here. And just as a note, when we're using the rattle in our ceremonies, we stop using it before we finish. And the reason is that when you're rattling it, you're calling the spirits from wherever. And the spirits were here waiting for us before we got here. So we were in ceremony before we got here. Because the intention, once you agree to an intention of attending the ceremony, you're in ceremony. When the organizers of this camp started organizing, they were in ceremony. And they continue the ceremony until it's complete, which is the breakdown, the teardown, and the ceremony going on. This vest is part of my regalia. The bag is part of my regalia. People say, oh, look at those Indians, look at those natives. Look at beautiful costumes. No, we don't have costumes. We have regalia. That means we wear things that we actually work with. You know who have costumes? Costumes come with clowns. We are not clowns, okay? We can clown around, and we can identify ourselves as clowns, but when we're in our regalia, we're in our regalia. And so the Scottish people are in their regalia when they're wearing their kilts and whatnot. And the Irish, part of the regalia is that hat, little beanie hat with the little clover hanging on it. That could be part of the regalia. It could also be part of their costume if they want. I'm going to take off my regalia now because it's warm. There's a lot to that. I could spend an hour just talking about that vest, but we're here to talk about. What are we here to talk about? Some people have asked me, some people have read on a piece of paper. So what did you think we're here to talk about?
Healing?
There we go, we're talking about healing. What part of healing were we talking about? You read it on a piece of paper, we talked about it.
Spiritual.
Spiritual healing, yeah. What else? Who's it for? The life givers. And who else did I say it was for? The who? The children. And? Who are you?
Self.
What are you?
Someone said self.
Yeah, what are you? What am I?
Human being.
What's he?
Human being.
Yeah, but what are the three of us?
As one.
Hey?
Males.
Males! Okay, we're here to do some healing work for females, life givers, and males. So, that's okay, there's no wrong answer. Every answer that was given was correct. Okay? There's no silly question, no silly answer. So when Christopher Columbus was coming across the sea from England for the Queen, he was coming across here to head to India, and he was looking for spices, because spices was a big thing back in the day because there was no refrigeration, and they used spices for not only to cook with, but also to preserve food. And that was where the money was being made when they brought the spices back. And so they were out there for a very long time, and they were lost. And we can prove they were lost. Because when he was on the east coast of Turtle Island, North America, he looked in his little spyglass and he seen some people out there on the shores, because he wrote in his logbook that he seen the Indians on the shore. So that made him think he was at India. So that means he was lost. He wasn't really where he thought he was. Now what did the elders say about that when he turned around? I've seen the Indians. The elders say that they were just glad he wasn't looking for turkey. Okay? Otherwise I wouldn't be an Indian, I would be, never mind. Okay, so they came here and they realized that they weren't in India, and they seen resources. They seen the fish, and they seen the four-leggeds, and they seen the timber. And the timber was huge for the European. So they went to the chief. And they went to the chief's helper and said, we want to harvest your resources. And they soon found out that they didn't have the right to give them permission to harvest the resources. Who they had to go to were the life givers. And the life givers are wide open life givers. The female aspect's wide open, and they're here to protect and to guide and to love and have empathy and do all the things that life givers do. And they have the wisdom. And so there was a council of elder life givers who would guide the village. They would guide the men. And they would guide the other life givers, and they would guide the children, and they would guide the elders. And so when the Europeans came and said, we want to harvest the timber, they're going to want to do what? We want to clear cut all this. Well, you're going to what? We want to take all your fish. You're going to what? Because we only took as much as we needed. And when we found what we were looking for, if we're going to the forest to go find some herbs, for example, when we went marching into the forest to find the herbs, we found the herbs, we didn't start picking right away. We would walk past those herbs, and we would go find more herbs further away. And then we'd find the strongest, most powerful herbs that were there, because they are the elders of the herbs. And we would give them medicine, and we would introduce ourselves to our relatives, because we're relatives of everything that's alive, everything has a spirit. And we would ask permission to take their bodies back to feed the people, and we would honor them. And we walked past the first one, so we made sure there was some there for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. Because if we kept on taking the first ones we came to, our grandchildren would have to go a long ways to find some more. So, the life giver said, no, you cannot come here and harvest our land in the way that you want to. And that was the end of it. So the Europeans said, this is not right. We should be able to get permission from the male chiefs. Because in our land, the men are in control. And how are they in control? Because eons before, the men decided by the sheer might of body and strength and will of mind that we are going to dominate you, we're going to take the power away from you, and you're going to be subservient, and you're going to listen to us, and we are the bosses. So they had already done that to their women. So what they did was they went to the chiefs and said, look, are you going to pay attention to us? We can help you. And he said, no, we need to listen to our life givers. So, okay. Now, you aren't the bad people, okay? But they went to other males and said, we are going to take control, and we're going to give you power if you want to have that power, and we can give you prestige. We can give you resources, we can lift you up, we can give you power. So they were bought. And so then they took the power away from the hereditary chiefs, and they took the power away from the clan's mothers, and they put the power on some males that would take that power could be bought. So hence we have what we now call the elected counselors. But back in those days, there was no election. There was just appointed. You are the bosses. And then they got to sign the treaties, and then they got money and they got resources. What would the resources be? The resources could be, say, a gun. It could be some food, like sugar or coffee, these different things that come from Europe. And they got a nicer home and whatever. And so then they were taught then that they had to repress the females and take the power away from them. And so then over the last 400 years, they've been very successful in that. In many ways, the residential schools or the boarding homes that Sister was talking about, and we took the power away from the life givers and we've imposed our will upon them. And so from the time that the life givers are born, they're told that they need to serve man. They are told that they do not eat until the men are finished. I remember going to my uncle's home and witnessing that, where his wife and his daughters, who were older than the sons, the food was prepared and they walked in and there was supper, and then they would stand off the side and then all the men would sit down, including myself at the time, and we would eat to our fill. And when we were finished, we would get up and leave, and then the women were permitted to sit down, and that was what they said was the traditional way. And it really wasn't the traditional way, it was the imposed way. It was the way that we could impose our will on the life givers. And so when the women were hurt, so what? Now, let's look at the men. They were born. And they were, from the time they were born, they were told that they were more powerful than the females. Do not cry, don't act like a girl. Do not throw like a girl, do not run like a girl. Do not act like a girl. And every time a phrase like that was done, it was like putting a nail into the door jamb of their heart. Their female aspect, which is the left side of the man, and they're putting all these nails around the door jamb. And you know, if you're going to cry over time, you're going to strike you. Don't you cry. I'll give you something to cry about. All these things that we heard and felt as a kid. It's like another nail going into the door jamb to close off our female aspect. Now, do the life givers have male aspect? No, they don't need male aspect. They are total female aspect. Okay? So we, as males, have a male aspect and we have a female aspect. And so all the words that are said and the actions that are done to teach the males to close off their female aspect, which is their heart, which is their emotions, which are their feelings. We do not show our feelings. Man up! You want to cry? I'll give you something to cry about. And so by the time we raise our young boys up to adulthood, what's happening is there's no more room left to put the nails around the door anymore, because you've filled up all the room around the door jamb, and then the junk starts to pile up against the door. And so it's then easy for a man to dominate the life givers. It's then easy for the man to dominate the children and dominate the elders and do what man wants to do. So, how does man get his female aspect open? He has to heal. He has to acknowledge to himself that he's hurting. He has to acknowledge that his female aspect is not open, and he has to work through prayer and go through ceremony and talk to the elders and whatever to move all the junk away from the door. And then, as we go through the healing process, you have to pull out one nail at a time until all the nails are gone from around the door, and then the door will creak open. So for me, I went down my healing journey, and when I went to, say, Sweat Lodge, I would sit in, if the door was in the east, on the Sweat Lodge, I would sit in the west, which is the hottest spot. And when you go into the lodge, the women go in first, the life givers first, they go to the left, they swing around to the right, and they sit on the right-hand side. It's the north side. And then the men would follow, and they would sit on the south side. So I began to make sure that I was right behind the life giver, so I could sit right on the divided line between the male and the female, so that I sat close to the life givers. Even though wherever I sat, I'm going to get the vibrations and the love from the life givers. I wanted to be beside them. I didn't want to have any of the male aspect get in the way. And that's how intent I was. And I would sit beside them, and I would pray for their healing way. And I didn't ask them for it, because the spirits, when you're in the spiritual realm, they know what's in your heart, they know what's in your mind. And so for years I worked on that in different ways. And then one day, like the last nail came out and the door creaked open. It creaked open so little, but that power that came through that little crack into me blew me right back. It was so powerful. Just pure female energy aspect coming in and touching my heart. And I praise Creator for not throwing that door open, because I'm sure that if that door had been flung open, I would have died. Because the energy is that powerful. I would not have been able to take in all the energy of love and everything else. It would have stopped my heart, because it just was not ready for it. It needs to be prepared for it. And so I continued to work on it and get that wide open. And that's why when you hear when we were talking about how we want to identify it, say I'm a male, but with a female aspect wide open. And now I'm more of a man now than I ever was before my female aspect was open, because now I'm complete on who I'm supposed to be, which is female aspect and male aspect. So what is man here for? What is the purpose of man? The purpose of man is to walk in front, or to the side, or to the back. But let's walk in front. And the purpose when he's here is there's two purposes of man, which is to provide and to protect. So we provide everything that the life givers need, we provide everything that the children need, and we provide everything that the elders need, and we protect the life givers, we protect the children, and we protect the elders. Now, when I am involved in a leading role in the ceremony, if I had been part of the leading role of this camp, I would have asked that the leaders ask the people that when we go to eat, that all the life givers and the children eat before the warriors. The warriors being every meal that's there. Oh, we have some people who have health concerns and need to eat right away. Let's include them with the life givers and the children. We make sure that the elders eat before the warriors do. Because if we're the ones that are providing, and we're making sure we've gone out there to get the food and we're bringing it back, and then they're lovingly preparing it for us and putting their prayers and good feelings and thoughts into the food so that we can eat that food. If we haven't brought enough, then why should they suffer? Why should the children suffer? And why should the elders suffer? Then the warriors suffer, and they suffer quietly without complaint. So, before first contact came, our medicine people, they talked about a dark time coming to the First Nations on Turtle Island. And they said, we're going to face extinguishment. But the good news is that we will not be extinguished. The good news is that we will go through a very black time, a very dark time, but we're going to come out into the light. And a really interesting and exciting and joyful thing that's going to happen when we come into the light is that the whole world will come to the First Nations for the very thing that they were trying to extinguish, which is our culture and our spirituality. And praise Creator, that time is now. You are living in a remarkable time, and this is the time of rebalancing. And so with rebalancing, what takes place is we as men need to give back our power that we took from the life givers willingly, and we need to heal ourselves and support from the life givers. So the pendulum swung over here. It's been over here for about 400 years now, since first contact. So when we do the rebalancing, this pendulum cannot swing back over here for the life givers to abuse us for 400 years to pay us back to make everything even. That's not rebalancing. Rebalancing is coming down here and stopping in the center, and there's mutual respect and love and admiration and everything else that comes with it. Now we need to heal from the 400 years, and even for those that come from Europe or other places where their life givers were held down for even longer than that, that needs to heal as well. We all need to heal now because we are now in a rainbow nation. I was doing a walk downtown Eastside Vancouver, and the life givers are the one that lead because they really are our leaders, and the men, the warriors, walk behind, and we went down through, and we stopped at different places where we know our sisters had been murdered, and we did prayers and we made offerings there at that spot where they were found. and then we went through the different places, and then we ended up at a hall. And we marched into the hall, we're, drumming and rattling and singing and chanting and whatever. And then when we went in, I seen that one of my sisters, who's a warrior life giver, leader, and she was taking people's names that were wanting to come up and be speakers. So, Spirit said, Michael, go speak. I've learned to pay attention to Spirit. And so I went up and I said, Kat Morris is her name, and she's a native life giver, leader. And I said, Kat, can I speak here? And she goes, oh yeah, Michael, yeah. So she put her name down. And by the time I was called up, I was about halfway down the line. So if this was the hall and the doors were over there on that wall, all the men somehow ended up standing against this wall. So we were the wallflowers. And so by the time I was called up, maybe about 25% of the life givers had left, maybe a couple of the men. But most of the group was still there. And the only other men that were there was, I called him Uncle because he was one of my mentors. And as soon as he became my mentor, I immediately started calling him Uncle. And he had a big drum like you have for powwows and for sun dances. And he had a group of about 5 young men with him. And they started singing and drumming when we were entering the hall. And then Uncle stood up and greeted the life givers and welcomed everybody and said, I'm here to support you. Our group is here to support you. So there weren't that many warriors there. So my name is called out, so I go up and I have an idea of what I'm going to speak about. But when I'm a speaker, what I do is I try to get out of the way and let Creator come in and take over. Because you heard me in my prayer a couple times now where I say, Creator, please forgive us all our transgressions, known and unknown. And make us like that hollow reed, like a dandelion reed. It's hollow. So that your work can flow through me to your grace and your glory will ever remain humble through me. So I try to get out of the way and let Creator come in just to work. So I get up there and I stand at the podium, and I look out, and everybody's kind of chatting like this, and a lot of the women had been hurt by men over there, and were being used by men. So there was a lot of angst and anger towards the male species from the life givers, and I could feel that vibration. And Creator has me go real loud so I can catch your attention because nobody really paid attention to this guy that's on there, and I holler it out. I am a man! Well, the vibration intensified for the angst and the anger towards male, and it was now directed at me. So that stopped a lot of the life givers from talking. I'm a Creator, what are you doing? And so then, open my mouth, I am man! A second time, real loud, and now everything's quiet, and now I'm total focus of everybody. And I get punched and I get darts. Because we can feel that spiritually. People can send punches to you. People can hit you with darts and arrows and such. Why? And I'm wondering why Creators had me do this. So I open my mouth again, and the third time, I am man! Well, now it's just like really major and intensified, like 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 10-fold on me. And I think, I'm not going to get out of this hall alive. But I'm trusting Creator. And before they decided they were going to rush on me, because I could feel the rush was coming. Fourth time, I am a man whose female is wide open. And I started going into the teachings of how my journey went to open myself up, so that I understood the angst and the feelings and the pain and the anger that the life givers had for us. And I talked about how we had taken physically and abusively the power from them. And I went through that, and when all the men were standing against the wall there, I said, you men, are you willing to give up your power? Well, they're kind of confined, so the smartest thing they can say is yes. Well, they all did. And the women cheered, hey, and all really good. And then I said, you women, are all you life givers, you ready to get your power? Are you ready to get your power back? Are you ready? Are you ready? I can't hear you, life givers. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your power back?
Yes.
Okay. And then a third time. Are you ready?
Yes.
I can't hear you. You're all sitting there quiet. Are you ready? Okay. And then we went on and carried on the teachings. Now there were still a few happening there where there were so many living. Because this happened, the guy saying, are you ready to have it back? Is enough for them to forgive me for all the pain they've gone through. And when I say I understand the pain of the life givers, I understand it because I'm First Nations and I grew up in the mainstream, so I grew up in the white community. And I went through a lot of abuses for race. And then I went into the foster home system, and you heard all about the abuses that happen in residential schools, in the boarding schools, the mental, physical, spiritual, sexual abuse and all that. Well, I went through all that as well. And so for have a man force himself on you, and I went through a lot of years of physical abuse before finally every bit of resistance that I had to stop this man from raping me, finally I never had any more resistance than the rapes began. Because I was in a group home of 8 other brothers, and this man moved into the, social worker moved into the house, and he systematically was raping my foster brothers. And we all knew that was taking place. And when one day I was called into the office of his superintendent, his boss, and because there was a word kind of getting around town, there was a murmur of things going on in this place. And so he wanted to know from me what was happening. Now, you understand that I'm in a place where I know that my parents, my grandparents, my aunties, uncles, cousins, friends from home all know where I am. But I'm abandoned. That's how I'm feeling, because nobody's coming to get me. Like, I cannot understand why they're not coming to get me. And here's the man, the boss of the guy who systematically raped my foster brothers, asking me if I can tell him what's going on in the house. And I'm trying to decide whether this guy is a friend, an ally, or if he's just going to be another abuser. So I'm sitting there trying to figure that out. And finally, when I'm not saying very much, do you know how he tried to endear himself to me, to get me to open up so that I would tell him exactly what's going on? Is that if you don't tell me what's going on, you're going to be turning 16 pretty soon. And when we're 16, we no longer have to look after you. We can kick you on the street. You want to become a street person. So you better tell me what's going on. This guy is an abuser. There's nothing in his words that told me that he's going to protect me. If I open up and start telling him what's going on, he's probably going to send me right back to that same house. And that same social worker is still going to be there. And he's going to go talk to the social worker and say, this kid says that you're raping the foster brothers. And then he's going to say, oh no, I'm not doing that. You don't play the Indian kid. Yeah, really? Look at that. He's an Indian kid. And then he's going to be left there, and I'm going to be left there, and you think that I was abused before? I know that I'm going to probably get the biggest beating and abuse in my life if I say anything now, so I said nothing. And then when the man was giving me booze and beating me up and everything else, and then he threatened me, sending me to a juvenile camp that was on Vancouver Island. And he said, I will label you as incorrigible. That was the label that was being put on me. It was enough to put me into this home, into this youth prison, where they did everything that was happening in the home that I was in, but worse. And I knew that because I talked to friends and relatives that had been sent to that prison. And actually one friend, he escaped and he came and lived in Chilliwack. He was on the street, and for 5 years he was on the run. And so every night he slept in a different place, he tried to get food where he couldn't go to school, and he's a teenager. And finally, after about 5 years, the police put the word out to him that they wanted to talk to him, that he wouldn't be arrested. Please just come and let us talk to you. And so they set up a meeting, and he went and met a cop, and the cop says, we have known where you have been the whole time, we could have got you at any time. But the prison that you were in, being hiding as on the street and everything else, was worse than anything that could be happening there. So, you're no longer going to be looked for. You have been released. You can do whatever you want now. You can walk down the street. You can get a job, you can go to school, whatever. And he told me about the abuses that took place in that place. So, when I started my healing work, I was going through all the healings of everything that I've gone through in my life. And from time to time, things will pop up that I wasn't even aware was there. And then I'll work on that. And I'll heal. So I was born with gifts, and most of my life I was afraid of them. And when I started walking the Good Red Road, I was finally told by my first mentor what those gifts actually meant, and they were there to help the people and myself, and so I had to start using them, and then, as a result, I've had other gifts. So we all have the power to be a healer. You can heal yourself. And you can do that by being guided by someone who knows how to do that. By someone who can guide you to find out how you heal yourself. When I'm working with someone, I'll say to them, when was the last time that you looked in the mirror, looked yourself in the eye in the mirror and said, I love you? Now I'm going to ask you, you each individually know the last time you did that. When was the last time you looked in the mirror in your eye and said, you are worthy? So we all know individually when was the last time. So some will say never, some will say, well, it's been a long time. Some say, well, I might have done it yesterday or whatever. But that's our spirit. When we look in the mirror ourselves in the eye and we say, I love you, you're saying that to yourself, you're saying to that little girl, you're saying to that little boy that's in us. And that little girl and that little boy needs to hear that, because when they were little, when you were born, you were an angel. You came from heaven. We all came from heaven. And what's happened is the further we get away from heaven, as we move down the path on Mother Earth, the distant memory of being in heaven disappears like a dream does. If you have a dream and then as the day goes on, it filters away. That same thing happens. So that when you're a little boy or a little girl, niece, nephew, grandchild, and you say, who are you speaking to? And you say, I'm speaking to my friend. It's because they can still see the spirits. And so they're able to communicate with the spirits. And so people don't understand that, so they're giving the kid a hard time about talking to their imaginary friend. Well, their imaginary friend is a relative, probably. So encourage that, because they have the gift of being able to see the spirit. I've been able to see spirits all my life, and I continue to see spirits all my life. And they don't frighten me. There are good spirits and there are bad spirits. So one of the ways you can protect yourself is when you see that flicker in there. You know that someone's there because you see the flicker, right? You look and there's nothing there. That means that you have the ability to see spirits as well. When you're, say, in a dark spot and you start seeing these little dots, little white dots, those are spirits. Okay? And so you know that there's spirits with you. When all of a sudden you feel a tickle somewhere or something, or you feel someone's touched you, a spirit has just touched you. If you're somewhere and all of a sudden you feel this coldness come past you and then disappear, it means the spirit has come and been beside you. Okay? But let's talk about your spirit. If your spirit is hurt and it has not fixed, then it will manifest itself into a physical sickness. And when you go to your doctor to say, I've got this pain, the doctor is working on a symptom. You need to work on healing your spirit, and you need still to keep that doctor to work on your symptom, and the two of you will fix that problem. So, we are here to move forward spiritually, and some of us learn really early that we're here to move forward spiritually, and some of us learn later on in life. So what I say is, if this is the beginning, because we're linear, and this is the end, and then in between there's a whole bunch of teachings that are going to take place, and you can't possibly do all these teachings in one lifetime, so you go home to heaven, and then you say to the Creator, you need to go back to Mother Earth, and you identify what you want to work on. You identify before you come back what you want to work on. Now, that was a real hard lesson for me to get my head wrapped around. Hang on, you're telling me that I asked for racism all my life? I asked to be raped by a man. When I was 3 years old and I had a babysitter, and my older brother was 18 months older than me, there was two of us, and we had a 13-year-old female babysitter come in, and she was sexually active because she was probably being raped by her parents or her uncles or her grandparents, because they had come from the residential school and they were raped when they were children. So she has become sexually active, and so she decides to take Mikey and Ronnie, strip us down, take us to bed, and have us do things. I had no idea what I was doing. And I had no idea why every time after we'd be in bed together, after a while, she would send me to the bathroom to give her some toilet paper. I never understood that. But one day, when I was walking to the bathroom, I'm naked, I'm in the kitchen, heading to the bathroom, my mom walked in the back door and she goes, Mikey, what are you doing? Where's your clothes? I said, well, they're in the bedroom. So where's Mikey and whatever the girl's name is? He says, well, they're in the bedroom. What are they doing? I said, well, I don't know, they're met. So anyways, we never had that babysitter anymore. But nobody ever talked about what took place. Nobody tried to heal me or my older brother about being sexually abused at 3 or 4 years old. And so all my life, from 3 years old, I was sexually aware. And it impacted my life in a big way. And then when I was in that foster home, and then for years to be systematically beaten and whatever, until finally his rapes began. And then I was asked after, of course it never happened. I would not admit to it happening. But I knew everything that happened because it was in a glass case in the corner of my mind. So what happened to Mikey? at some point there, Mikey says, I don't want any more part of this. So Mikey, my little boy, he disappears into the corner of my mind in some dark spot. And Mike emerges. And now I'm Mike, and I'm Mike from a youth to about 21, 22 years old. I'm known as Mike. But Mike went through a whole raft of abuses. And there was no one there to say, I love you. There was no one there to say, I have empathy for you. There was no one to say, I'm here for you. I'm here with you. I'll help you. There were no birthday parties. There was no hugs. Hugs that were of love. There was hugs of, I'm going to abuse you. I'm going to control you. And then at 22, I'm thinking to myself, I just lost my marriage. I just lost my daughter. And it was very traumatic. And I hurt for over 30 years over the loss of that daughter. I promised myself that I would never leave my partner and I'd never leave my children because I knew what it was like to have abandonment issues. And for that first marriage to fail, I ended up at a 3-bedroom house on the south side of Vancouver, and a boat, and a nice car, and a nice job. I had a 3-bedroom house full of stuff and a basement full of stuff. I was living the dream, and the marriage is failing. And I'm doing everything I can to save it. So I think, oh, let's move back east where she comes from, and maybe we can save the marriage by doing that. So I sold everything, we bought a car, we transited back east. And the problem that we had didn't change. So the location doesn't change. It doesn't fix your marriage just by moving from one town to another. I'll tell you that because I tried it. So I ended up losing that marriage. And every day and then what happened was I was making contact with my daughter, which she promised never to interfere with. And then one day she phones me up and she goes, my husband, every time you make contact, I understand you're not doing anything wrong. But every time you make a phone call, every time a package arrives, every time the letter arrives, he freaks out. We have nothing but negativity in our house and he just loses it. And we need to have peace in our house, so I need you to go away. And I go, whoa. So I took some time to think it over, and for the love, I loved my daughter so much that I agreed to go away. It was not abandonment. It was loving my daughter so that she could have peace in her house and grow up in a happy way as best I could help her. But the agreement was that at some point in my daughter's life, we were going to have to reconnect, and my past partner was going to have to help me with that. So my daughter was 18 years old. I got a hold of her at her workplace. I always had her phone number and I always had her address, but I did not have permission to use that. And I honored what I say. So I never phoned her. But when she was 18 years old, I broke it one afternoon when I figured Mom and Dad would be away. And her sister answered, and her sister gave me her work number, and she was at some, I don't know, chalet or something. She was working someplace. So I got a hold of her at work, I identified myself, and she goes, Michael, you are my father, but I have a dad, and he's the one that raised me, and I don't know you, and when he finds out you made contact with me, there's going to be hell to pay, so I need you to go away. And all I asked was for me to be able to make a video and send her a video where she could understand who I was and what I was. And she said no. So I had to honor that. So many years go by, and every day that I talk about my child, I cry and I stop, I can't even talk. That's how much I hurt. And I fed that pain every day, very religiously. And just before I got that call from my past partner asking me to go away, I remember one day saying to myself, gee, I haven't talked to my daughter for a week or so, I need to phone her today. And then I thought, no, I don't want to phone her today because I don't want to get drunk. And I went, whoa, hey, let's back up here. I don't want to get drunk. What does that mean? And I stopped and I thought, and every time I'd made contact with my daughter, that day I'd go out and drug and drink. And sex. And those were the things that I would do to try and mask my pain. And I thought, oh, that was a real revelation for me. So I was hurting big time. So I really started monitoring my actions in that way. So I got involved in Medicine Wheel. I ended up being the speaker for the elder. I ended up being the chairperson for the Medicine Wheel. So I'm kind of like Bill and the other leaders here that are running around trying to make everything work. I'm really involved. And then 1 year I thought, it'd been 30 years I was crying for my daughter. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. It's just too painful. It's too heavy. Because this bag that's on my shoulder here is like this. And I'm bending over from the pain. And so at that Medicine Wheel, I brought her to the Medicine Wheel with the idea to heal. And at one point, the elder goes like this. So I go down, kneel down with her, and I say, yes, what is it? She goes, after the speaker, I want you to speak. I said, okay, what would you have me speak of? And she says, you will know. I had no idea. So I'm standing in the south side of the ministry mill. There's the spirit fire there. And there was one spot in the north, and there was nobody else sitting outside the circle in the north. So it was my turn to speak. I walked from there to there, and in those few steps, I knew I was going to talk about my daughter. And this was going to be my healing moment. And so I started talking about my daughter and sharing the pain I had, and the tears were running down my face, and my throat's getting choky and everything else, but I just carried on, I closed my eyes, and I just was in the moment, and I went through and I told my whole story, and I asked Creator to heal me, and the Spirit to heal me. At no point did anybody come and touch me or anything. There was people praying for me and helping me as I was doing my work, but I couldn't hear anything that was going on, and I didn't know at the time I couldn't hear what wasn't going on. But I did my work, and I don't know how long my eyes were closed, and I don't know how long the process was, but when I finally came out of it, I knew that the pain had been lifted off of me. And to my left, about where these people are sitting here, there was a life giver standing there. She had 2 healers working on her, and she was sobbing uncontrollably. And over to the south, in behind where I had been standing, there was a man who came to the camp, to the ministry wheel. And he was dressed in leather, his big boots, and it looked like he was part of Hell's Angels, right? And he was literally stomping around the grounds for 2 days. Don't talk to me. I'm only here because my woman wants to be here. I don't understand what you guys are doing. She's talking about healing or something. Don't talk to me, I'm just here. And nobody could get near him. But there he sat, 2 healers working on it, and sobbing like a little baby. And so what took place is when I was going through my healing, these 2 individuals were in the same place as I was. We had the same pain. And so when I initiated my healing, they kicked in. They triggered. And they were in the right place because there's people there to support them and help them. And that man's life was changed. You see that as epiphany right there. To know that Spirit's there to heal you. And from that moment on, when I talked with my daughter, I no longer cried. I no longer got all choked up. But I still prayed every day for me to meet my daughter on Mother Earth in a good way. And I continued to pray. That was at year 30 away from my daughter. At about year 33, I started including my daily prayers. Creator, if I can't get to see my daughter, I will see her in heaven. And if that's how it's going to be, I accept that. At no point in all those years, not once did I ever question Creator on, I've been praying, I've been doing what you asked me to do, and where is your answer? If you're such a great God, you're such a great Creator, you're such a great Spirit, why aren't you answering me when I make such a good prayer? I never once said that or had that thought. I just believed. And when my daughter was going to turn 35, a few days before that, I found her mother on the internet, and I knew I would. Because I knew with her skills and her leadership and everything else that she was going to be working for a company, that her name would be on the internet somewhere with an email address, and that's what I was searching for. And I found it one night on the Sunday. And our daughter's birthday was on the Tuesday. And I sent her a message in the workplace. And it would be many, many years since we communicated. Monday morning she came to work, flashed open her computer, and there was a message from her past partner. And she answered me and said, wow, I came from left field. And she goes, yes, I shared this email with our daughter, and she thanks you very much for the birthday greeting. And we ended up communicating back and forth a little bit. And then she said, you know what, I don't have the energy or the time to try and develop a relationship with you now. My husband is sick, and all my energy has to go towards him when I'm off shift. And when I'm working, I'm here, all my energy, I just don't have time to try and develop a relationship with him. But she didn't say go away. And I was able to give her all my contact information. And so then, 6 months later, I get an email from her, good news. And the good news was, our daughter had triplets in Toronto, Ontario. And they're all healthy. And the father, he was adopted from Scotland, and they had no history whatsoever on him, so they had nothing on him thinking. They have no history on him for his health concerns from the family. So we want to know if there's anything in your family that we should be concerned about from a health aspect for the girls. Could you research that and get back to us? I said, certainly I can do that. And so I researched that. Now, I've been involved in community service for over 30 years in many different ways. And so people came to me and said, we want to try to get an honoring for you, we want to get this national award for you. Can you do a bio of yourself so we could submit it? And so I did. Very humbly, I was very humbled that people would think that way of me. And so I had this fresh bio of myself. So when I researched my family's health, and there were no concerns, the only concerns they had were lifestyle concerns. And so I sent that back, but I attached to that this bio and a letter to my daughter saying, Leah Lana Elizabeth Harris, called her Leah for short. I'm your father and understand you have a dad. And I said, I would like to reconnect with you, and you will direct how our communication is. I'll accept anything you offer. I'm not a bad man. I'm not here to hurt you. Please, can we connect? And then I asked my past partner to forward that to our daughter. So 3 days later, I got an email from my daughter. First communique I've had from my daughter. And I'm literally afraid to hit enter, because this will be the third strike zero. The third strike will go away. I didn't know if I could deal with it. So I did some prayers, I hit enter, pow, open, hi. Yes, I realize you're a father. Yes, I realize I don't think you're a bad man. Nobody's ever spoken to Emily about you. My mother, my aunties, uncle, or anybody. And yes, we can communicate, but right now all the energy I have for you is emails. That's fine. So we have developed now, and 3 years ago, I spent 3 weeks living in a 32-foot RV parked in their driveway, and our reconnection was seamless. It's like we were together our whole life. And what was really interesting was the triplets, the only male that could pick up those girls was the father. If uncles or friends or anybody else tried to pick them up, the girls would cry and scream and kick uncontrollably. They did not want to be picked up by males. And when I was picked up with my past partner of 36 years, we've been gone, separated for just about 5 months now, and that's a good thing from both our aspects. We were together then, and we went to her uncle's place to pick up the one daughter, and they were having a barbecue and the house was full, and I walked into the park, into the house like this, and there's this little girl down there, and it's, hi, how are you doing? And I picked her up like this, and I walked around the house with this little girl in my hand, and she's smiling, and we're talking, and she's laughing and giggling, and everybody's just staring at us, you know? And I thought, well, they're staring at me because I am, the grandfather to this child, and whatnot. And then we left there with the child, and we carried on for a couple hours driving to their home in Bracebridge. And in the morning, when I came to the house at 3, we were in 3 high chairs eating the breakfast. We sat down, I sang songs to them, talked to them, and they just sat there kind of stared at me. And then the living room and the dining room was converted into a play area. I laid down amongst all their toys with a cushion behind me, and then let them do whatever they're going to do. And they just kind of stood around and kind of watched me do little things, but they never took their eyes off me. And then within 15 minutes of me rolling little toys to them, they're literally running around, playing together, laughing, and touching each other and everything else. And what I found out was that the fact that I was only the second male that was able to do anything with these kids. I don't want you to do it for 3 months. I want you to do it for 90 days. Every morning when you wash your face, look yourself in the eye. Say, I love you. And then say, you are worthy. And throughout the day, when you have to glance yourself in the mirror, store window, the frying pan or whatever, say, I love you to yourself. Reaffirm that. And what will happen is that little boy and that little girl will come up. So when we're in the field and I'm making jokes, and they're funny, and you get a chuckle out of them, that's not Michael. That's Mikey. Okay? So Mikey's here with you. He's here with me. Because I had to work on getting Mikey to come out. He disappeared for a lot of years. And so when I went up the mountain for 4 days and 4 nights, and we don't eat, and we don't drink, all we do is pray for 4 days and 4 nights. The first time I went up, I talked to Mikey. And I'd been talking to you before, but I made sure I talked to him then. I said, Mikey, you need to come out. But Mikey didn't trust me. These are all the things he went through. He was doing that. So the second year I went up, he popped out for a little while and listened to what I had to say. But he didn't completely trust me, so he disappeared. So for the next year, I kept on talking to him and letting him know what was going on. And the third year I went up, he came out, and I said, you know what? You don't have to stay with me all the time. Just come out when you want to. You have control of when you want to come out. And we will experience that. So Mikey will come out, and sometimes we're doing something, And it's his interest, it's his joy that will have me go and do something. Now, I might already know how to do it. Michael know how to do it, but Mikey never experienced it, so he wants to experience it. It might be a simple thing as holding a balloon and walking around with a balloon. See a man walking around the fair with a balloon. Because when you're a little boy and a little girl, you want a balloon. It might be going to get an ice cream. Yeah? Or it might be seeing something on the computer that you know about, but Mikey wants to experience, so you got to go through that thing for Mikey to get it. And it can be very adult or it can be very childish. It doesn't matter. So, First Nations culture and spirituality is such that we're supposed to, and everybody's spirituality and culture should be this, and I believe it is that we respect and honor and lift ourselves up and honor the life givers. So where do the two-spirited ones come into all this? Two-spirited, meaning you have a female aspect to yourself and a male aspect to yourself. From the First Nations perspective is the life givers and the males who had two spirits in them were honored for who they are. They were at no point ever put down. So if you are in a man's body and you identify yourself as a life giver and you want to go do life giver things and be with life givers, go do it. Support that. And sometimes they take partners and sometimes they don't. Again, it's their choice. I personally have a brother who's gay. And it took him to be a young man before he could identify it. Has he come out? Not 100%. But all his close friends and all his family was gay, and he's okay with it. I have a brother who passed away who was bi. That's okay. I'm a male who identifies as a male, and somehow, wherever I go or whatever I do, and I don't try and do this, but wherever I go, I'm surrounded by life givers. And I get along really well with life givers. That's not to say I don't get along with the male aspect, okay? I love the men too. But I love them as brothers, or uncles, or grandparents, or nephews, or friends. And I remember even when I was in the Roman Catholic school, at break time, recess, I'd be out playing. Who was I playing with? I was playing with the girls. And the sisters would come up and say, Michael, you can't play with the girls. Get over there and play with the boys. I go play soccer with the boys or whatever. And that's fine. I get along well with the guys too. But I'm able to communicate really well with life givers. And when I go to join an organization, I go to an executive or go to a committee. And we as life givers and we as males, we let our spirit out. We let our spirit of cleanliness, the vibrations come out. And we all put out vibrations. Every one of us. Now, do we want to put out vibrations that are very hurtful and angry? Or do we want to put out vibrations that are love? So how do we do that? We start by loving ourselves. Most of the time we're so busy looking after the world out there that we forget about ourselves. So look in the mirror. Say I love you. Do it for 90 days. I don't want you to do it for 3 months. I want you to do it for 90 days. Every morning when you wash your face, look yourself in the eye. Say, I love you. And then say, you are worthy. And throughout the day, when you happen to glass yourself in the mirror, store window, the frying pan or whatever, say, I love you to yourself. Right? Reaffirm that. And what will happen is that little boy and that little girl will come out. So when we're in the field and I'm making jokes, and they're funny, and you can chuckle at them, that's not Michael. That's Mikey. So Mikey's here with you. He's here with me. Because I had to work on getting Mikey to come out. He disappeared for a lot of years. And so when I went up the mountain for 4 days and 4 nights, and we don't eat, and we don't drink, all we do is pray for 4 days and 4 nights. The first time I went up, I talked to Mikey. And I'd been talking to him before, but I made sure I talked to him then. I said, Mikey, you need to come out. But Mikey didn't trust me because of all the pain he went through in his young life. So the second year I went up, he popped out for a little while and listened to what I had to say. And he didn't completely trust me, so he disappeared. So for the next year, I kept on talking to him and letting him know what was going on. And then the third year I went up, he came out, and I said, you know what? You don't have to stay with me all the time. Just come out when you want to. You have control of when you want to come out. And we will experience that. So Mikey will come out, and sometimes we're doing something, and it's his interest. It's his joy that will have me go and do something. Now, I might already know how to do it. Mike and Michael know how to do it. But Mike will never experience it, so he wants to experience it. It might be a simple thing as going to the balloon and walking around with the balloon. See a man walking around the fair with a balloon. Because when you're a little boy, you're a little girl, you want a balloon. It might be going to get an ice cream. You know? Or it might be seeing something on the computer that you know about, but Mikey wants to experience, so you're going to go through that thing for Mikey to get it. And it can be very adult or it can be very childish. It doesn't matter. So, First Nations culture and spirituality is such that we're supposed to, and everybody's spirituality and culture should be this, and I believe it is that we respect and honor and lift ourselves up and honor the life givers. So where do the two-spirited ones come into all this? Two-spirited, meaning you have a female aspect to yourself and a male aspect to yourself. From the First Nations perspective is the life givers and the males who had two spirits in them were honored for who they are. They were at no point ever put down. So if you are in the man's body and you identify yourself as a life giver, and you want to go do life giver things and be with life givers, go do it. Support that. And sometimes they take partners, and sometimes they don't. Again, it's their choice. I personally have a brother who's gay. And it took him to be a young man before he could identify it. Has he come up? Not 100%. But all his close friends and all his family knows gay, and he's okay with it. I have a brother who's passed away who was bi. That's okay. I'm a male who identifies as a male, and somehow, wherever I go and whatever I do, and I don't try and do this, but wherever I go, I'm surrounded by life givers. And I get along really well with life givers. That's not to say I don't get along with the male aspect, okay? I love the men too. But I love them as brothers, or uncles, or grandparents, or nephews, or friends. And I remember even when I was in the Roman Catholic school, at break time, recess, I'd be out playing. Who was I playing with? I was playing with the girls. And the sisters would come up to Michael. You can't play with the girls, get over there and play with the boys. So I go play soccer with the boys or whatever. And that's fine, I get along well with the guys too. But I'm able to communicate really well with life givers. And when I go to join an organization, I'm an executive or go to a committee, and I'm not trying to get on the committee with just girls, I put my hand up, I'll be part of that committee, and then often I'll look around the committee and it's me and all the girls. And I'm fine with that. So, I have a granddaughter who just turned 13, I think in March. Her moon time started. The first phone call from her was to me. Happy. I started my moon time, you need to bring me some pads. I said, okay, I'll come pick you up, take you home. No, I don't want to leave school. You just give me some pads and come to school. I said, no, I'll go buy some pads, I'll come pick you up, I'll take you home so you can refresh yourself, and then I'll take you back to school. She said, okay, that works. And then I got a hold of some cousins, older cousins, and said my granddaughter just started first moon time. We have protocols and procedures and spiritual and cultural activities that should take place. It's an honoring time. And I'm the only one in my family that follows this path. Now I have other family members just recently that are finally starting to reach their hand out and say, please teach me, or please come talk with me. Because they've been watching my walk and talk for a long time. And so they went and spent a good part of the day with my granddaughter. And there's going to be more ceremonies coming. So respect the life givers. Life givers have been taught all their life that it's a dirty thing, it's a bad thing, to hide it, it's a shame, you can't participate in this. And then they say, oh, well, you're having a spiritual ceremony, and you're having your moon time, please get up and leave and go over there. And they feel again kicked out of the circle. Why do the life givers not participate in ceremony, special, well, not so much cultural, but spiritual ceremonies when they're on moon time? Because they're at their most powerful time. That's your most powerful time you can be. And if we are all trying to move ourselves forward spiritually, and 2 or 3 of you are on your moon time, then what happens is the vibrations and everything else are coming from you. You are just like overwhelming the rest of us with your energy, your strength, and your love, and your kindness, and everything else. And it blocks and it inhibits our ability to understand and grasp and move forward. So what you do is you remove yourself away from us so that we can do our work, so we are aspiring to be where you are if you're on your moon time. That's the most powerful time. Something you need to understand. When we're born, at some point there where a spirit enters the body. There's all kinds of debate of exactly when that spirit happens. We won't get into that. Oh, thank you, sir. Hey, thank you. So, I'd like you to pay attention to me for a second. Look at me. A man is born. His energy level from the ground to here is where his energy is. Now that man, that young boy, he's a good boy. He's with parents that are very spiritual and very good. And throughout his whole life, he's only known love and goodness. He's been taught to work on his energy, his spirituality, his culture, everything else. And he works and works and works all his life. Just before he dies, he gets to the highest peak. And he's moved up that high. So that's the highest he can get spiritually. With all his energies. And he's done everything he can all his life to be good. Now a life giver is born. And her energy level is here. And she works all her life on her spiritual energy. And the sky is, there is no end to how strong a life giver can become. But we're talking about her lowest point. So at her lowest point, when she's born, or when she's sick, or when she passes over, it might drop down just a smidgen. And that's her lowest point in her life. And this is the male's highest point that works as hard as he can all his life. And he cannot ever get close to the lowest point of a life giver. That's how strong our life givers are. That's how strong our two-spirited sisters and brothers are. Okay? You need to know that. You need to embrace it. You need to love it. To know that not one man around here can be as strong as any one of you life givers here at any time. You have always been stronger than us. Throughout the time since we were created, you have always been stronger than us. And we came in and said, we're stronger than you. The only way we were stronger with you was stronger by might, so we could smash you down to take your power from you. And that was wrong. There was never, ever anything right with it. And when our elders talked about the black time and coming out into the time rebalancing, this is the time rebalancing. This is the time that our life givers need to embrace who they are and what they are and be that strong. And not to beat us down, but to love us and honor us back. You see, I know that you have been bad to us, but mostly the life giver or the males that are around right now don't understand why we've been bad the way we are. Because we've been taught that way. And you haven't understood why you've been held down because you've been taught to be held down. Right? And you accept it. I was working, what was really interesting for me was when I left my just past marriage 5 months ago, and I went through a very difficult time because I was going through abuse. And a few years ago I joined a circle, and it was about battered women, and we were going to do a circle. And it was going to be a man's perspective on women's abuse. And so we had people from Toronto, Montreal, New York, Las Vegas, San Francisco, all kinds of places. And we would do telephone conferences, and there was about 5 or 6 of us men that would join the conference in the battered women's place. And we were being guided by this black life giver that's so powerful that the first time I met her, we were in this crowd, we were doing demonstrations in the street, and she was probably a good block away from me. And through the crowds, I could feel her energy. And I didn't know who it was, but I could feel a life giver's energy, and I was standing there and I thought, wow, someone really powerful is coming. And I'm not moving because they're moving closer to me, and I want to stay here and see who this strong person is. And the crowd opened up, and this beautiful black woman stepped forward. And wherever she went, the women were just going to her. Like she was like the beehive, and all the women, didn't matter what color they were all going to her and talking to her. And she was just talking, smiling, and laughing, and having fun. And as she worked her way through, there were people who wanted to come and touch her. And she was the executive director of the Battered Women, one of the Battered Women's Society. And I was just in awe. Wow. We did not meet that day. Another day we met. And how it happened was I was on the internet, and they were calling for instance, these men to come and be part of the circle. And I thought, I could be part of that circle. I think I would like to be part of that. And so I sent a message saying that I would like to be part of that. And I didn't know that I was sending the message to her. And that's how we connected. And when I seen her, I told her the message, and I told many people that message. And one day I was telling that message, and my partner was sitting beside me, and she got super jealous. Because my attention and adoration and the love for this other person, she thought it should all belong to her. It had nothing to do with me wanting to get into her bed or her to get in my bed. It was strictly love through Creator. And that's what it is, love through Creator. Mm-hmm. So when I say to you, I love you, and I'll say that to you, doesn't mean that I'm trying to have sex with you. And when I tell my brother I love you, it doesn't mean that I'm homosexual or I'm gay or trying to get in bed with you. It means that I love you. And I told you I love you already. And we're brothers. Right? And people that aren't aware of their spirituality, when I tell them I love them, they often become uncomfortable. Because for them, love, when someone says I love you, it means I'm trying to get you to bed, or there's something I want from you. When we're teenagers, and I'm going to a girl and say I love you, it means I want to take you to bed, like the song says. And she says I love you back, like the song says. And what she's meaning is, will you respect me in the morning? Right? Or when you say someone, I love you, it means that I want to have a relationship with you. Right? So I want you to be my partner. And so people are very uncomfortable with that. So you need to understand that when I say I love you, it means I love you and respect you because you're my brother, because you're my relative. Because we're all family, we're all related. Everything that's alive is because of spirit, and we're all connected. And there's no, for all of us to be at this camp right now, it's not a surprise. We were supposed to be here together. We were supposed to be here to share together. Right? And we're connected forevermore. Whether we physically see each other ever again, we're connected forevermore. Wherever we are. How many times have you gone through your life and you're thinking of someone and the cell phone goes off or the text comes or they knock on the door? I was just thinking of you! Guess what? They were thinking of you too because they're dialing in and their spirit, their vibration is going across and it's hitting these people. Now, there's the door. We're all sitting there, everyone's looking at me right now. And we're saying, okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. So you get up, shake, and go to the bathroom, whatever else. So get up, and then what happens then is everybody gets in 2 or 3 or 4 little balls and clicks, and you start talking or whatever. And you're all standing in different directions. There's very few of you that are facing that door. And then all of a sudden, just like that, at the same time, everybody stops talking. Nobody's asked you to. Every one of us stops right now, and everybody turns and looks at the door. And there's someone standing at the door, just entering. Have you ever had that experience? Yeah? I think most everybody has at some point in their life. I know I have many times. And what's happened there, usually I'm asking questions, but we don't have very limited time, so I'm just going to give you answers. What's happened there is there's a spirit in a body coming in that door. And we all have at least one spirit guide that walks beside us. And that spirit guide can be a human being, it can be male, it can be female, it could be an animal, it could be a fish, it could be a bird, it could be whatever. It's for you to work to find out who your spirit guide is. I know who my spirit guide is. I know whether it's male or female, I know what kind of body it has, and I know my spirit guide's name. And you can too. Okay? So my spirit guide will never ever tell me to do anything that's wrong. My spirit guide is only there to help me do good things and to protect me. And same as yours. That's how it is with all of us. So you're driving down the street and you're thinking you're making a left-hand turn, and all of a sudden you get this really strong thing in your head and say, go straight. And so your intention was to turn left, but you go straight, and then later on you find out there was a horrific accident down there. Whether a tree fell, or a building fell, or an explosion, or there was a big crash. And you stop and think, I would have been right there if I hadn't gone straight, and the last second I got this thought not to go down there. That was your spirit guide talking to you. Can you want me to prove to you that your spirit guide has talked to you? I can do that with each one of you right now. Women's intuition, or that gut feeling that you get, that's when your spirit guide is talking to you. And you can have more than one. And so when something's going on in my life now, and I want some guidance, I can now, because I'm that aware, is I can put a prayer out there and ask the spirit guides for direction on something. And you put out the question in such a way that you get a negative or a positive, whether it's a feeling or a taste or a thought or a picture, or even the words no or yes. So you want to put it out so that it can be yes or no. There's no ambiguous question. Okay? And then you're working, you're interacting with your spirit guide. And I really encourage you to do that. And so you can put on intentions out there. My spirit guide, I know you're there, but I don't know who you are or what you are. But I want to thank you for being there, and I want to communicate with you, and I want to get to who you are. And put those intentions out there. And as you go through your spiritual walk, it will become aware to you. Right? So, how do we continue to move forward once we realize that our spirit is inside us that's sick? Because remember, if your spirit's sick, it can manifest itself into a spiritual sickness, or a physical sickness. Is that we need to do whatever spiritual practices that are in your life, or search things up. Whether it's going and taking special time for yourself, shutting everything down, and telling your mind to stop. Because your mind's going 100 miles an hour, and that's what it does. It goes and goes and goes and goes. But you really actually can't have control of your mind. When you are out of your mind, that means your mind is out of control. So you're at some place and you want to have calm and quiet, you say, mind, stop. Mind, stop. I want calm, I want peace. And then, the other thing that happens is, we need to balance between our heart and our mind. We need to balance between our emotions and our mind. Because some of us are so thoughtful that when you talk to me, all I can talk to you is about statistics and all the things that happen in the world and historical value and everything, how it should be, and blah, 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 blah. And every time I come near you, you go, there, here goes that guy again, and he keeps on talking to me about all this stuff, you know. And he's all in his head all the time. And you come from your heart. And you're not in your head. So the two that come together aren't going to match very well, sitting down and talking. Now, I don't know where you are, so, okay? I didn't say it to you. But so what happens is, when we start working on our life from our heart and from our mind and balance that out, then we can achieve that calmness, and we can achieve healing, and we get along better with people. You get that? When Creator was going to place all the teachings that we need as human beings, as spirits having human being experiences, Creator goes, I don't know where I'm going to place this information, because I don't want somebody to get a hold of it and use it for improper purposes or try to make gain out of it or anything else. But I want to place it in a place where mankind, womankind can find it. And they can access it. No matter what's going on in their life, you have the ability to access it. Anybody know where Creator placed it?
Your heart.
In the heart. Exactly. So we all have it in our heart. So everything that we need is in our heart. And when I'm doing my teachings with people, if this person here said to me, Michael, I want you to work with me, I want you to be my mentor, and I agree to that, then what will happen is, as they ask me a question, I won't answer it. I'll have empathy for the concern they have, and then I'll start asking them questions. And that person will answer my questions, and often they'll dance around the mulberry bush for a while, and I'll tell them, you're dancing around the mulberry bush, the answer is right there, can't you see it? And pretty soon they see it, they come up with the answer. So there you go. You asked the question, and you answered the question. It was in you all the time. And that way you get to own it yourself. I think I've probably been on for a long time. What time is it? Cutting into lunchtime or anything?
1:15.
Oh, wow, way past. Okay, so I'll wrap up here then.
1:30 lunch.
Is it? Okay. You want me to talk some more, or you want to go?
I believe they said 1:30 at breakfast today.
They said 12:45.
Okay, well, I'll wrap it up anyways. So, I tell people don't say thank you to people for listening to me. Because that means that I'm forcing you to listen to me. The doors were open the whole time you were here, so you had a choice when you wanted to do that. But I want to, just to acknowledge the spirits and creators that were here, and the spirits that were called to come and support and guide us. I want to acknowledge them, say thank you to them for coming and being here. I didn't touch the rattle again, so I wouldn't call any more than were already supposed to come. First Nation spirituality is open for everybody. We need to honor it. One of the things that we as First Nations are very concerned about is that people will come and learn our culture and our spirituality and then go out and market it. And start charging people for it. And it's not about that. And you know, we heard about a bunch of people down south from being in a sweat lodge, because there was a non-native went and learned about sweat lodge, and then he fired up this farm similar to this, and charged people huge money to come and receive Indian teachings and healings and such. And he really wasn't a shaman, he really wasn't a medicine person, he didn't really understand how to deal with the spirits, he didn't understand the nature of the culture of the spirituality, he was just marketing it. We call those people plastic shamans. So I know that when I was walking down the path, I was doing one of the ceremonies, and then my peers came to me and said, Michael, we want you to know we trained up. And at first I was like, whoa, what do you mean trained up? Me? Why me? And they said, because our elders are passing over, we're getting sick, and we need some people to get trained up so they can continue to do the work. Because if we don't get people trained up, there's nobody going to be left to do the work and pass it on. And so I was really humbled, and I wasn't even sure that I was the proper person. But what I've said to people since is, if someone comes to you and asks you to step up and be that life giver, leader, healer, teacher, instead of saying, why me, say, why not me? Okay? And that's the same with the men. Why not me? Because we all have the ability to do it. I can't do it because I can't stand up in front of people and talk. I'm too shy. I get all caught up. But you know what? That's something you need to heal from. So what's the best way to heal from that is to get up in front of people and start talking to them. Right? So you can't use that as an excuse. People say, okay, we want to feed the elder first. He goes, oh no, I'm not an elder, I'm not an elder. You know, don't talk to me like that. You know, in our eyes, you might be that elder. And for me to come up to you, my brother here, he's an elder as far as I'm concerned. Because in his way, and there's parts of his life that he's an elder, he's gone through lots of stuff. We are all elders in some way for the things that we've experienced in life. And what is an elder? An elder is someone who has experience and understanding, awareness, and knowledge of things. Okay? What we want is good, healthy, respectful elders. And when someone calls you an elder, do not say, oh no, don't call me an elder, because now you are rebuking me. You're embarrassing me. Because I've come and called you an elder, and you're saying, no, so now I can't treat you like an elder, and everybody's seeing this positive, negative thing happening. So where's the respect to me for me calling you an elder if you reject my title of it? We are all here to respect and love each other. So if I choose to call you my elder, then be humble, feel honored, say, help me out. Say thank you for calling me an elder. Because when you're an elder, it lifts you up. Try not to run around put labels on ourselves. I'm an elder, so I get to eat first. Yeah. I'm a prince, or I'm a princess, so you gotta honor me. So those are not humble things to do. So we have people that do that. I have relatives who do that. People say, oh, we don't run around and call ourselves medicine people. Well, that's right to a degree. We don't, but we cannot self-identify ourselves as being medicine people like Sweetwater and I have to you, so that you are aware. Like I said to you before, I can do work with you, Sweetwater can do work with you, but we're not running around looking for patients. You need to come to us and identify yourself as somebody who wants work. And the teachings are that you should at least bring tobacco and offer that. And depending on what we're doing, there's a man whose son was dying, and we called an elder. An elder healer came and worked on the son, and the son lived because of the work that happened. And then they ended up giving him a car, or a horse, or whatever. You know? So then I got some elders that say, you know what, I've been doing this work for, I've got 4 closets full of blankets. I can't ride to the next powwow on the blanket, and I can't eat the blanket. Like, give me something that I can use to get to the powwow. So let's feed this horse. And how do we feed this horse? We give him something that we can give to the man who will give us some gas, which will feed the horse. So I know that when I go to ceremony, I always try to give him a gift, her a gift, to feed her horse. Okay? And I usually give that underneath the medicine. So, but medicine people traditionally cannot say no when you ask for a healing. Now we can talk about the timing of that healing that's going to take place. And it's not us personally that's doing the healing, understand that. It's the Spirit working through us. So, I think, yeah. You know when I know I'm done? I'm going to ask you a question. When do you know an elder is done speaking? Pardon me?
They forget what they were going to talk about next.
They forget about what they're going to talk about next. No, that's a good answer. When he stops talking. That's a good one. And it's kind of funny, but listen to me here. Traditional elders, when they're talking, they're not going to use a whole bunch of words when only a couple will do. And so, when they're speaking, they might stop for a little bit to see how they're going to present the next part. So they're talking away, and then there's silence. They're like this. And then someone jumps up and starts talking right away. When that person jumps up and starts talking, whatever they're saying, it doesn't matter what they're talking about, what does the elder understand?
They weren't listening.
Pardon me?
They weren't listening.
They weren't listening?
Perhaps the Spirit spoke through them to...
Perhaps the Spirit's gone through the person to talk?
No, to cause the next, where the elder goes.
Okay, where the elder goes?
What he talks about next.
What he talks about next?
Lack of respect.
Lack of respect. Those are all right answers. But the one I'm looking for, and the one that the elder's understanding is, you are now talking. That means you are no longer interested in anything I have to say. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to sit down. And I'm not going to speak. Whoops. I'm not going to speak anymore. Because it's that person's turn to talk. And whatever that elder was going to say to you is not going to be shared now. Our world is so fast that lots of times we are not listening to the person. We're busy formulating in our mind what we're going to say when that person takes a breath. Right? Because we want people to hear what I have to say. So I'm not even listening to the person. I want to say what I got to say, so I was waiting for the person to take a pause or take a breath. And so for the respect part is, you come to listen to somebody else, and you need to listen to what they have to say. It's not unlike when Sweetwater was up here talking, and I'm sitting back there, and everything she talked about I pretty much understood and knew or was aware of already. And she may have even said it in a different way than I've heard before, but I'm understanding it. But that doesn't mean that I need to jump up behind you and say, excuse me, I just want to concur what Sweetwater's saying, or I wanted to add what Sweetwater was saying, and I'm taking it away from her, and then Sweetwater goes, well, gee, I guess I don't need to talk because now Michael's got the show. Right? So I would be disrespecting her. And that's part of our he would be, and that's part of our healing. And throughout this whole camp, there's been many times I wanted to put my hand up and say something. But I thought, no, I'm going to listen to what that person has to say because I know what I know already. I want to know what he or she knows. So I was quiet and listened. And then often, by being quiet and listening, the part that I was interested, the question I was going to have, they answered it. And then the leader or the elder, whoever's talking, when they want you to speak, when they're finished talking, they will tell you when they're finished. They will not just stop talking. They will tell you, I am done. Or that is my story. Or, what do you think of that? Now, passing the talking stick to you. And it's your turn to talk, because I've asked you, what do you think of that?
I love it.
Okay? So, with that, let's all go, help me out. 1, 2, 3. Help me out! Please, thank you. And one other thing I've been dying to do ever since I got here, this is fun. This is Mikey coming up. I'm from the Gitxsan Nation. I've always been proud of the Gitxsan Nation. And one of the things that we do, whether it's on the computer or wherever else, every now and then I'll yell out, Gitxsan in the house! Okay? I'll yell that. And then on Facebook I'll do capital words and I'll have Gitxsan in the house! And a whole bunch of people will look at comments back. And then when I show up in my territory, and I'm in the feast hall, or I'm at some other function and people know me, I'll walk in the door and they'll go, Gitxsan in the house! So that identifies that there's a Gitxsan in the house. So what I would like, sorry for here because I know you're a real strong Methodist Jew. And what a wonderful mother too. Isn't she a great mother? Oh. I'd like you to yell what you are in the house.
I am.
Okay, so if you're Canadian, you're American, if you're Irish, or you're Scottish, or whatever you identify yourself as, identify that house and in the house, and you yell to the rafters. And then everybody else take turn.
Woo, it's hard. I am woman in the house. I am Blaxican in the house.
Human being in the house.
Woman in the house.
Earth warrior in the house.
Okay, I'm not hearing enthusiasm here. Earth, come on, be proud. Let the people know who you are.
Earth warrior in the house. Settler in the house.
I want to hear it hollered out.
I'm a student in the house. Cascadian in the house. Ohioan in the house.
Dancer in the house.
Youth in the house.
Cascadian in the house.
Cascadian in the house.
Peace activist in the house.
Dirty wet feet in the house. Cascadian in the house.
Spirit locker in the house.
Lefty dancer in the house. Teacher in the house. Passionate citizen of the world in the house.
Phone in the house. Italian in the house.
Activist in the house.
Artful activist in the house.
Young person in the house.
Artist for justice in the house.
house.
Speak for your child.
Wow. Peregrine falcon in the house. and galaxy walker in the house.
Latina in the house.
Young woman in the house.
Youth film teacher in the house.
Young human in the house.
Climber in the house.
Nomad in the house.
Carly in the house.
Trinidad and Trini in the house.
Prayers in the house. Prayers in you. Your spirit's in you. The peace of Creator be in you always, and bless everyone in you, and I love everyone in you. Go ahead. All my relations. What does all my relations mean? Last teaching? Do we know?
All things, like all living things.
All living things
All
where?
things, my relatives.
All your relatives that are alive right
They're
now.
all related and past.
All of my relations from behind me.
In the future.
All my relations are alive right now. And all my relations in the future. That's a lot of relations. Okay? So when you say all my relations, they're with us. And they are. Woohoo! All my relations. Everybody. All my relations!
All my relations.
Go forth and eat.